You're watching the TGM production. Welcome to Tom Mason's Interviews, the show where I interview people over video conferencing. This week I'm interviewing Daniel Fearn. Hello and welcome back to Tom Mason the Interviews, the show where I interview people. Yes, we are back, we are back. We are more back than I've got backs. I've only got one back and I've said four backs. We're doing some more wonderful interviews and we've got more in the pipeline, which is not a pipe or a line, but but we shall crack on because it's always fun to get us started. My guest this week is best known for appearing in one of the BBC's greatest modern sitcom, despite what a certain little woman, well, she's actually quite tall, says on a BBC podcast, which I don't know why she decided to say it on a BBC podcast. On her own podcast, fair enough. We're not on a BBC podcast. It's the thing you should have done. It's the one and only Daniel Fern!
Hello everyone.
Um,
Lovely to be here.
yes. So we shall start at the very beginning. That Julie Andrews once said it was a good place to start. So far, she's not been wrong, but who knows? Time will tell. How did you get into the wonderful world I like to call acting?
Gosh, I would say it started at Sunday school.
Mm.
Basically, when I went to like a church school, secondary school, and we had like a kind of Sunday school after kind of church service, and basically the guy who used to run it would do like kind of biblical stories,
Yeah,
basically. And what we ended up doing was kind of long form improvisation
yeah,
over characters that
yeah.
were from biblical stories.
Mm,
So you would do like 45 minutes to an hour of what would happen if, with these kind of characters. And I really loved doing that. And they decided to do like a production, like a kind of almost like a nativity,
mm.
but it was what happened after the
Yeah.
nativity. And I played King Herod.
Wow.
And as a kind of 10-year-old, 11-year-old, kind of walking around the stage, stomping around and shouting, I just thought, this is brilliant. I can do anything.
Yeah,
And that is how it started. And then from that on, I did like primary school, school plays and things
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And then I eventually joined youth theatre.
Mm, yeah. And doing those sort of plays where you what happens after always reminds me of those pantos that haven't got the rights to the actual shows, and so they have to like come up with a slightly different version. So it's like, yes, it's a character you know, but it's like what
Yeah,
happened like 4 seconds after, or what happened if someone said that line instead of that line just to try and get away from copyright.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's
yeah.
not Robin
Yeah,
Hood, it's a wonderful adventures.
yeah, there's no kind of like, I suppose, copyright issues
Yeah,
with that. I mean, you'd have to go back, 2000 years. So
yeah. Yeah, that would be a very awful document to fill out the copyright for the for Bible story. So who owns it, right? But it is one of those things where you hear a lot about actors and people in the performance world doing plays in school, and a lot of them always say that if you don't get one of the main parts, you end up becoming like a great actor because you don't remember the woman that played Mary, but you do remember the one that played that little sheep that wasn't actually in the
yeah,
story. It's just to shut the child up.
yeah.
But I do,
Acting with a vengeance,
yeah,
basically. Yeah,
yeah. But do you think that because she played, I don't know, I'm not going to say that it's fact, but in quotes, the bad fella, do you think
Mm.
that that sort of made you see performing in a different light because you learnt that getting this freedom to be this like sort of like nastier person, you felt like you had more fun doing that than if you played the jolly one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think really what got me into it was during that show.
Mm,
I just loved the fact that I had everyone's attention,
Yeah,
and that was it. So whether I was a baddie or a goodie or anything like that, I just knew that I had that whole room or theatre space
yeah,
in the palm of my hand, and I just loved it. And then after the show, the adrenaline, I suppose that you get with theatre is like nothing else. It's such a kind of rewarding kind of experience, and going through that as a kind of like 10 or 11-year-old boy. It's like, when people say you're bitten by the bug,
yeah,
it's precisely my experience. It felt like that.
yeah. And some people are definitely bitten by bugs, and some theatres might have creepy crawlies knocking about. Uh, what an awful joke.
Performed in a few of those, yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you've done, um, which I think that it doesn't, I don't know why, but it doesn't get the credit it deserves in the sense of the second series came out on New Year's Eve and then went on the telly later on, but you had to accidentally stumble across it to know that it was out on New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
because well, the joke goes that the BBC didn't promote it, and then they made a spin-off, and then they didn't promote the spin-off either to to not promote the second series. But what was it like, and what is it? Because there's going to be more. What is it like being in the bubble in the weird world of things you should have done?
Um, yeah, I mean, it is a bubble. That is the thing. Um, it's a complete bonkers world. I
Yeah,
mean, what Chi has kind of invented and then working on that show and then rehearse, because what we do is when we don't, it's not like a kind of normal TV show where we go in and then we just start
yeah,
shooting it. We do a lot of rehearsals as well. Um, so we get to kind of play around with uh, the characters and lines and plot lines as well. Sometimes they completely change because if someone says bring something else to that
yeah.
character, I mean, for example, there was like two guys that played cops in it. They played police, and they were only supposed to be in one scene, and ended up being in 4 episodes. So
Yeah.
it's a real actor's dream to kind of make your mark in Cheese World. But yeah, it's completely bonkers being part of it. There are like I mean, it's so much fun
Yeah.
making it. That's the thing. And I kind of thought that I was like this kind of professional kind of actor who doesn't corpse or doesn't laugh or is like very kind of
Yeah.
centered and careful with performances. But I've kind of discovered that I'm not that type of actor at all. Especially the things you should have done. It's because it's absolutely some of the things are absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like Chi will just suddenly break out of character and say something totally bonkers,
Mm.
like that she's 12 years old in the middle of a scene, and then you have to kind of go with that. And so yeah, the character of Dave, I suppose, is quite honed in that
Yeah.
aspect that he's always kind of second guessing what she's going to come up with next.
Yeah. And I think that in a modern sense, that I would describe it as what happened if Monty Python had a child with the young ones, because
Yeah,
it's got the anarchic feel of the young ones, but then it's also got the sort of where one thing leads into another, and you don't know in Monty Python sense where you know that Monty Python's the Flying Circus is a sketch show. But you then forget that because that character from that sketch has wandered in to four sketches later. But it's like
yeah,
he's literally walked past it, and that's what thing they should have done remind them, such as the Gogglebox. Uh,
yeah,
really, really weird moment because you then realise that they're watching watching themselves, which I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if she's ever seen the Australian Gogglebox, but there's an episode where in that week, the Celebrity Australian Gogglebox was on at the same in the same week. So there's a scene where this where the Goggleboxers are watching Celebrity Goggleboxers watching TV,
yeah.
and it really is. It's like one family saying, "Oh, oh, that's such a body is a right, idiot. And they're all laughing about the fact that their reactions are all really stupid, but they're laughing really they're laughing so there wasn't none of
Yeah,
that was done as a joke. Is more like they're playing it like it's Gogglebox, but they're all watching celebrity. And at one point, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the celebrity then watch Gogglebox. So then
yeah,
it's the Goggleboxers watching the celebrity Goggleboxers watching themselves
yeah,
watching a program that the celebrity Gogglebox watched 4 minutes earlier because they've
yeah.
already seen that program, and it's like meta. And then when you watch that scene in the second series, the thing you should have done, you go, I can, I can sort of, I'm assuming she's seen them, and I'm thinking, I'm not too, I don't think 'cause that's too clever
Well,
to avoid something else.
I mean, it was a surprise to me, the whole
Yeah,
Gogglebox stuff in episode 6, I think, the last episode, because that definitely wasn't in any of the scripts in the read.
yeah,
And I only was aware of it when I went to a ADR session,
yeah,
which you have to kind of redo your lines if like a car goes
yeah,
past or a plane flies past. So you had to kind of do this. And then Jack said, who directs the show, said, "Oh, have a look at this. The next scene coming up." And it was this whole Gogglebox parody of Chi doing us as in Gogglebox watching our own show. And I thought, wow, that's insane.
yeah,
And there was a little tiny little nods to Chi doing impressions of us as well.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, and I think that it is one of those programs that when you then find out there's a spin-off, that because that and I think Smoggy Queens
yeah,
that did the Dicky show that there's an
mhm,
episode of the Dicky show that's incredible where because all the characters from Smoggy Queens pop up, Mark
yeah,
Benton who plays Mam is in it as Mam, and then there's an episode where Mark Benton's in it as Mark Benton. And he's
yes,
also in it as Mam, and then they meet each other and they have a conversation. Because then
yeah,
he then asked to interview Mark Benton, and he said, "Oh, there's a cracking fella in this other program. Oh, he's really nice," and he talked about
yeah,
himself. But when you found out that there was a spin-off for things in this sort of like pedalo chat show
yeah.
like format, did you sort of think that do you think that it fit really well to the show, or do you think that it's a little bit out there because in the context of the universe of things, you don't really see that occurring.
Yeah, um, I mean, it surprised me.
Yeah,
It surprised me in a good way, but that can be said with the show anyway,
yeah,
because I don't get when we get like scripts for the next series, we don't get them like months in advance where we can kind of work on the character.
yeah,
We get them a couple of days before the read through, so we go in. It's almost like live, you know. So when I found out about it. I just watched it and I thought, wow, this is
yeah,
great because it's another kind of almost like it brings in, I suppose, a lot more younger viewers,
yeah,
which you would have thought the show would does anyway. But
mm,
it's brought a lot of my generation in
yeah,
watching it, and the generation older than me
yeah,
are massive fans of the show. I think because, as you say, it's reminiscent of the young ones and Monty Python.
mm,
Uh, but I suppose, you know, as a kind of like BBC plan, I suppose it's there to kind of bring in um, a kind of newer audience, and it's a lot shorter than the show as well.
yeah,
So as a spin-off, I think it works brilliantly because it's purely, yeah, Lucas and Cheese kind of world of people trapped on the water.
yeah, yeah,
But that, you know, I could walk out of this interview now and I'll be like, that's fine, I've done my bit, that's it, done. But I couldn't do that on a pedalo in the middle of the water.
yeah,
They are trapped, and yeah, and you know, obviously it's what is it, blue screen, I think.
yeah,
But that pedalo place is in Ramsgate though,
yeah,
because I remember we were filming near there once, and we had our lunch on not on the pedalos. We're banned from using them. But I can imagine if she had found a key to a
yeah,
pedalo, we'd all be there pedaling around, you know.
yeah. And I think it proves that the word pedalo is a comedy word.
Oh God, yeah, I know. I can't stop saying it.
Yeah,
Peddler. There you go.
pedalo. But I think that what it does. So if you look at TV, and I think that because of YouTube being this juggernaut, you can see since the birth of popular people on YouTube, they've then tried to get on TV because TV people think it's the thing to do. Get these people on, we'll have loads of viewers. Britain's Got Talent doesn't work in that sense with that fella, KSI. That doesn't work. But I think that for Chi, it works really well because when you watch Britain's Got Talent, and I've never seen KSI stuff, so I only know him from Britain's Got Talent. It it might seem to the audience that that's way different to what he does online. But for Chi, what it signifies is that thing we should have done is just a longer version of one of her YouTube videos because she's got all of her little weird green screen sort of impression bits in it, as well as a narrative which you need for a good TV show. But do you think that that sort of is a reason why, as you said, young people are getting in it is because it's just a longer version of something she's done online because it feels like it's a direct copy and that's what more TV people need to realize that these
Um,
YouTubers need that.
yeah, I mean, that's probably a question for Chi, really. But what I can ascertain from her is that she's such a fan of TV
Yeah,
and film, um, that she just wants to make and enjoy the process of making something and putting it on.
yeah,
The sketches and the YouTube sketches. I mean, I'm speaking to her mum. She started doing those sketches because she found out that with YouTube, she could kind of do these kind of 1 to 2 minute
yeah,
sketches, and that was it. And it was, I guess, clocking up viewing figures, and then
yeah,
basically it ends to obviously making like a TV
yeah,
show. But with things you should have done, it is very episodic and almost kind of like a soap sometimes.
yeah,
The way you get to see characters kind of living between those beats of the story.
yeah,
So like there's bits where, for example, myself and Lucas decide on um, robbing a test, not like a kind of convenience shop store, in that moment, So it's not kind of everything is yeah, I think it kind of goes with it's slightly different. The YouTubing sketch shows, they're kind of as a formula kind of put into the her world because
yeah,
that's what it's like.
yeah,
That's her. She set her stall out. That's the show.
yeah,
But episodically, and as a series, it's
yeah,
very well kind of thought out and written, acted, and directed. And then the other thing as well is that the everyone that is on that show is a massive fan of TV shows too. That's which I again why I think it works because there's a lot of input from everyone in that show.
yeah. And I think that what YouTube allows you is you can do whatever you want and then you get recognized. So I once spent, I don't know, let's say about an hour and a half, and this is an hour and a half editing, filming, editing, re-uploading, and I tried to do a sketch where, and I did it successfully in the end, where an elephant, they say you don't speak to the elephant in the room, so I kept on doing the thing where the elephant was upset about the fact that no one spoke to him. Now,
Yeah.
the problem with doing that was that you have to know what an elephant looks like. Now, behind me, I've got two like knitted type elephant things, right? So Elmer, you've probably heard of Elmer. There were books. Elmer's apparently got cousins. Don't ask me how that works, but I didn't realize an elephant had tusks until the 18th time doing it when someone said, you were doing it with the wrong elephant." And that was the whole problem with the sketch was that it was a wrong elephant. And so I spent hours doing it, but I think that that's what the joy of YouTube is that you can experiment with these things and you can realize you're an idiot. Um, and I think that that's what YouTube does really well, is it lets you have these things, then when you move it on to where you want it to be, you've got that platform. And I think that that's what TV beforehand didn't have where a a company couldn't look back at what they've done already and gone, "Huh, I actually like that," unless they've been to watch stuff live. Do you think that that's what the future TV will be? Have where it's like got people like in like Cheese Shoes, where it's like people that have done scripted things on YouTube and they've looked back at it and gone, "Yeah, I trust you enough to make X, Y type show."
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the way I kind of see TV going forward would be um, longer, almost kind of like box set um, shows.
Mm,
So like you have like these kind of like American kind of 10 episode
yeah,
TV shows. I think we'll probably end up going towards that. Um, Comedy wise. I guess that's another formula that would definitely work with comedy.
mm,
But with the good thing about YouTube is it's kind of like a savior for certainly British comedy anyway,
mm,
because there are people that I know that do shows that don't do stand up, for
yeah,
example, or will do sketches on YouTube and things like that, and the kind of Instagram little kind of thoughts of the day, I call
yeah.
them. So Alistair Green does a lot of those,
It
and
does.
I love those things because they're they're kind of really satisfying to watch.
Mm,
They're only 1 minute to 2 minutes long,
yeah,
but I would love to see how that would go long form. So I think really, yeah, my answer I think is you're going to see more of a kind of long form
yeah,
of of TV.
yeah. And there's a woman I keep on seeing online where she comes up with a premise of like let's say Oasis. She did one about Oasis where Oasis. Oh no, Glee's a better example where Glee didn't exist. It's like the film Yesterday, but there's no Glee. She's the only one that knows Glee. And then Ed Sheeran then walks in and says, "Hi, I'm global megastar Ed Sheeran. I want you to come and tour." And then it just does a voiceover and says that she's now a world successful famous person doing cover versions of songs from Glee. And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
each sketch is blank in the style of the film Yesterday, where she's the only one that knows them, and the gag always ends with the same clip of Ed Sheeran of a bloke who looks nothing like Ed Sheeran, but just a ginger walking into it. I'm global mercantile Ed Sheeran because in the film Yesterday, Ed Sheeran did just knock on the door and say, "Oh, I've heard about you. Come on tour with me." Because
yeah,
it was odd that Ed Sheeran was in a film called Yesterday.
yeah.
When ironically, he did walk in a scene where it was the day before. And then he did speak to him afterwards. But one of the other things, swiftly moving on, one of the other things he worked on that had a really good sequel series because I think the format works really well for this, and I think it would have worked best personally. Would have worked better on the BBC instead of Netflix, but Netflix have the money these days. What was it like working on the hilarious, the fantastical, and the slapstick Man versus Bee with double E?
Man versus Bee. Yeah, I mean, God, what a gig, what a joy. Um, it's one of my favorite uh, jobs just because with Rowan Atkinson to work with him and to see how he works and how incredibly detailed he is was it was just mind blowing. Um, and people say, oh, don't meet your heroes and things like that. But I mean, in this case, that's complete nonsense because he was amazing and it's just such a lovely guy, really generous. And what I would say he's like a real kind of actor's creator.
Yeah,
So any questions you have about your character or anything, he will open the room up for everyone to kind of share and have an opinion on it. And also it was such a grand scale of working on it that they built that house in a kind of disused kind of airfield, basically. So a lot of the bunkers were turned into like a studio.
mm.
Uh, and there was one day it was so hot because we filmed it in like a middle of a heat wave, and we were filming in the dark as well because obviously a lot of my scenes are robbing the house, so it's all dark. Um, and so everything is kind of controlled within the studio. And you kind of go in from like really bright lights and go in like from outside,
Yeah.
like 10 o'clock in the morning. You go in and it's like
Yeah.
4 a.m.,
Yeah.
completely pitch black. And we're inside doing this thing, doing this scene, and it's quite physical. And having a break in between takes. And I just said to the runner, I'm just going to go outside and just have a breath of fresh air, if that's okay. And she's like, yeah, yeah, sure. So open the door for me. I kind of sat there in the garden of this like massive big
Yeah.
house and stuff. And I was like, oh, so good to be outside, isn't it? And she goes, sorry, I thought you haven't gone outside yet. I went, well, I am. I'm in the garden. And she went, well, look up. And I looked up, still completely underneath, completely covered, lights up and everything. And you just forget that the world is so immersive
Yeah.
that yeah, with Netflix have obviously got the money to do that, but being in a controlled environment as well,
Wow.
in order for Rowan's kind of comedy to work, I think everything, the elements have to be controllable, you know.
Yeah, and that sort of the way you described it reminded me of how you would think if you were in a supersized escape room. Like you get taken in. It's there's a program called The Way Out, and it's when they're like ramped up. There's a hamster cage. There's like a massive hamster, and that's what that sort of thing reminded me of. Like you sort of walking, and you're in that universe, and you have to go. Well, what time does that happen to you? Where if you're in a scene in that type of environment, do you forget what time it really is, and you think
Yes.
it's a lot
It,
later than it should be?
yeah, it's kind of like I can't remember, it's like jet lag, really. Yeah,
Yeah,
we filmed it, yeah, in the summertime, and we're filming in complete darkness, and then you finish at 6 o'clock and go outside, and it's really bright.
yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, it's a real, oh, yeah, it's crazy, yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think that out of the two, Man versus Bee and Man versus Baby, I think B works a lot better than Baby because with B you can't really because B's are not massive. You sort of just assuming the B's there and you can sort of see it, and I think that adds to the gag because it's like he can see where this bee is and you're going, well, where is it really? And then that's what I think that's what adds to the joke of it because it's like he's gonna break that vase breaks and you're like the bee's not there with a baby. You can sort of preempt that that baby's gonna fall down those stairs
yeah.
whilst Ron Atkinson chasing after whoever or having his shoe bitten off. But do you
I
think?
think what is
Go.
interesting about with Man versus Baby versus Man versus Bee
Yeah,
is that the stakes were a lot higher
yeah.
versus B. And I think there was a lot of complaints actually of people saying this is too much. Their like blood pressure was going sky high, so intense. I remember my parents watched it and said we had to have a break after episode 3. Too much. We're thinking, oh my God, what on earth is going? Where is it going now? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, sorry to try. I just had to kind of just
yeah,
say, yeah, it's. I mean, I did love Man versus Baby, and I loved the whole
yeah,
kind of Christmas vibe to it as well. I thought it was really
yeah,
nice. But
yeah,
as something which is dangerous, I
yeah.
think Man versus Bee has the edge on it,
Yeah.
definitely.
And because you have Apple watches that do your heart rate and watches, not just Apple, but other brands of watches are available. But you have heart rates on them, and it is that type of thing where you can see you know what sort of know what your heart rate is before, and then when you watch these type of things, you went, I think I'm gonna pass out in a minute. My heart rate's now at this, and that happens a lot. It happened to me dad the other day. We were watching 1923, which is a spin-off of Yellowstone, and it's all this like shooty shooty gun gun. Helen Mirren just shooting like right, and that's the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. Helen Mirren sometimes shooting, and you can see the heart rate on the watch go up and up and up. And I think the Man versus Bee is one of those things where you want your eyes covered and you're like, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah,
But I do think that if they were gonna do a third series, a third iteration, the next thing would have to be Man versus something beginning with B. I don't know what, but it has to have the letter B in it because baby and B. are
Hmm.
cracking. So it'll have to be like bacon, man versus bacon, and it's a pig. It's a pig called Bacon.
I think you're right with the kind of smallness of the thing that he's versus, like the
Yeah,
bee is that tiny.
yeah,
I think it has to be something like that, isn't it? Something
yeah,
so small and kind of what we would kind of see as insignificant
yeah,
causes this massive kind of,
yeah,
disruption. But yeah, but
yeah,
the other interesting thing about that as well is that was the first time I'd seen professional puppeteers
yeah.
working
Wow.
because the bee was a character done with puppeteers.
All right.
On like a wire, like a stick,
Oh right. Yeah,
and they would have the personality, obviously, of the bee,
yeah,
and they would work with us and row. And if it walked past and flew past us
yeah,
and things, so you would know that here is the bee,
yeah,
and also the dog as well. I remember there's a scene where I distract the dog by giving it its favorite toy.
yeah,
And whilst it's playing with its favorite toy, I can then get through
yeah,
the door into the next part of the house. Um, Now, the dog that we had is great, but it can't really do like it kind of
yeah,
intense bits of acting. So they had a puppeteer, like a puppet dog,
yeah.
and I didn't realize I was acting with the puppet dog until about take four. And the only reason why is because I saw the woman who was doing it kind of
Yeah.
get up, kind of switch legs because she'd been crouched down for such a long time. I went, oh my God, you've been in shot all that time. And she went, I'm tearing the dog. And I was like, what? That is crazy. Yeah. And
Wow.
yeah, so hats off to that. So I don't know how they would have done that in Man versus Baby.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, with B, yeah, I just think the puppeteering was just such a skill that I'd never seen
yeah,
done before.
yeah. And I do think that when you mentioned it was a puppet, for a brief moment, I thought that someone's finger must have just been up the bee to do it. And then you said wire, and I thought, phew. I was just really hesitant of someone dressed in one of those green suits because
Yeah,
when you watch like I think it must be the behind the scenes of like Detective Pikachu. They're all in the green suits and they can't really breathe, and then they're edited out of it. And
yeah,
so it's that's really fascinating because I think that having it physically there in this day and age is what's really important.
mm,
So I think that when you hear, oh, there's this massive giant like robot thing and it was gonna kill me, but all I was acting on was a bloke with a tennis ball and a stick, and you're thinking, but how do you get the best reaction? So you be able to articulate knowing where the bee is.
mm.
I think for you, do you think that you had a better performance than if you heard the words "There's a bee behind you" and you got it shouted by the director?
Yeah, definitely, because you can physically see it and the way it moves,
Yeah,
uh, how how it moves as well.
yeah,
If you've got like three people going, oh, the bee's over here,
yeah,
the other two people are going to be looking over there and over there. So you definitely have to have a sense of kind of choreography
mm,
within that. But yeah, but again, acting on something like that, the rehearsal is so uh, precise
yeah,
that if there wasn't a bee there, then
yeah,
there would have been you would have known exactly where it was just
yeah,
because of the nature of how kind of Rowan works and doing these kind of long takes and just playing and just finding the character.
yeah. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, you mentioned this several times, is that when you watch documentaries or behind the scenes and whatnot of like Blackadder, you see the rehearsal room, and I think that I would love to see like just behind the scenes of the rehearsal rooms in those type of environments because it doesn't it doesn't ruin the magic of the thing. It just gives another insight into it because when you watch when someone's trying to talk about a musical they're in, there's not already a pro shot out there filmed where you can sort of like demonstrate a clip of like this is what it looks like, we're doing our own spin on it, and then sometimes they have images of like a massive boat in this massive rehearsal room and all these actors like posing or whatever action they're doing. And I think that would be interesting to see just like a whole run through of what could have been like a first draft version of Man versus Bee would. I just think that seeing that in a white, because obviously I assume all rehearsal rooms are white, because why else would there be any other color? Well, cream
Well,
because
I mean, I've been in rehearsal rooms before, which are village halls,
yeah,
and like we were rehearsing uh, personal history of David Copperfield,
yeah,
and we were in a village hall in the back of Covent Garden,
mm,
and there's something of the smell of a village hall where you think any minute now it's going to turn into like a kind of fete, or someone's going to come and go,
yeah,
sorry, are you supposed to be in here? But then you're acting with people like, Dev Patel and Hugh Laurie and
yeah,
Amanda Iannucci, and it kind of like, I think rehearsal rooms should be white because sometimes when you're in a situation like that
yeah,
and you're watching these kind of, and you're doing a scene with like Hugh Laurie, for
yeah,
example, and all you can see in the background is like, signs, things like, bike required
yeah,
type of thing. So you don't have to be mad to work here, but it
yeah.
helps. That type of that
Yeah, and I
can
think
take you out really quickly.
yeah, and I think that would just be really funny. So you're in this rehearsal space. There's Hugh Laurie, right? You think you're right, okay. I need to profess him. There's Doris, three doors down. She'd brought in a cake, thinking it's the cake. So walking, oh, sorry. And walks out. Then someone's second going, hang on a second. That Hugh Laurie? What are you doing here? Are you
Like
late for the cake sale?
there's like one bit where we're rehearsing where myself and Ben Wishaw are kind of crouched behind a table.
Yeah,
We're about to kind of make an entrance and like do a scene. And then, Doris comes over and just says, are you going to be here all day? Because we are booked in for 5. Oh, yeah. You're about your hair in a minute, So there's that, yeah, it
yeah,
takes you out.
yeah,
But a lot of rehearsal spaces are like that. I remember
yeah,
some Porridge in a kind of community centre. And you get like other people that have kind of don't, book the room as well, and they come in like a Pilates class will go.
yeah. So, but
Yeah, the BBC are there kind of going, well, we are doing this, we're
yeah,
trying to do this
yeah.
like TV series here. Yeah, never mind that. I've got my Pilates at 5.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I just think that I think you could create it's like there's a sitcom called The Smoking Room. I
yes,
think
yeah, yeah,
I think you could create a sitcom called The Rehearsal Space instead of room, sort of room space, and it is just like each week it's a different high-profile TV company. Like one week it might be Netflix, and they're in the Cotswolds in a massive village hall,
yeah.
and it's like the most, and you get like your guest stars, and you get like really well known people that are obviously you have to beg them to be in these things, but you get them to be in, and then you get all your reoccurring characters that keep on being in these spaces. That would just be a hilarious half hour sitcom where it's like you have like Margaret, and she's ended up traveling down to the Cotswolds, even though she lives in like Bolton, but she's having a cake sale with a friend who was in a Pilates class like 20 years ago, and they're in a cake sale. I just think that would just be a hilarious concept. You just
Well, this is the thing. I mean, this is all rehearsal rooms are like that, though.
yeah,
That is the thing. It's like I remember watching like the extras on like Red Dwarf,
yeah,
and when they talk about rehearsing in Acton,
yeah,
and marked out the kind of starbug on the
yeah,
floor in tape. They're going, this is where you've got to be here, and it's kind of like, well, is this useful in a way because we're going to get to the
yeah,
set. It's going to be obviously completely different.
yeah,
And I suppose it's not. It's really to kind of hone uh, the writing
yeah,
aspect of it rather than not bumping into the scenery.
yeah. And now you mentioned this before, but one of the things you've worked on, and I think that when it gets mentioned, it doesn't really get mentioned, and I'm a stickler for correct terminology in this, and it doesn't really get spoken about in its correct terminology. But in 2016, it was 60 years of sitcoms, and they did a program where they had a lot of actors recreate lost scripts of like Hancock and Till Death Us Do Part, and then at the other flip side they had the sequel, they had the prequel, the sequels, and the continuations. So you
Yes.
had like Young Hyacinth was the prequel,
Yeah, totally.
and then you had Goodnight Sweetheart, which was the continuation.
Mm.
And then I think Are You Being Served was also
Yes,
a
it was.
sequel, I think ish. I don't think it was a reboot of something. I think it was,
A friend of mine was in that, Nikki Wardley, and I watched that, and I thought that was going to be the one to kind of clinch it.
yeah,
I did like. I mean, I know a lot of it's not the kind of in thing to say now, but
yeah,
with Night Sweetheart,
yeah,
that I loved that,
yeah, yeah.
and I would be really interested to see where that would go. Didn't they do? It was for comic relief, wasn't it? They did a kind of continuation of that. I think it might have been.
I'm not too
Are
sure.
you talking about? I mean, porridge? Is that what you're?
Well, that's what I'm going to get to, but I think that with Are You Being Served, just briefly, I don't think sequeling in Are You Being Served worked because John Imman went to Australia and did the Australian version, but it was a continuation. So it was like he had been flown over from Grace Brothers in the UK to work in Australia, so it wasn't a remix. So I just don't think Are You Being Served needed that because it had already had its footers in thing. But what was it like working in this? And people call it a reboot, but it isn't. What was it like working in the sequel series to Porridge, which could have had an extra word or two to make it clear that it was a different entity because it was about someone that was related to him because Porridge had Porridge, then it had Going Straight, and then it had that weird thing where Ronnie Barker returned and he was now working in a pub where
Yes.
well, I don't know what that was called because they did one for The Good Life but never included any of the actors from The Good Life in it.
Yeah.
But what was it like working in the sequel to Porridge and Going Straight, the 2017 Porridge?
I mean, I loved it. I mean, I'd worked with Kevin Bishop on a show called The Rack Pack, which
Yeah,
was it was the first feature to be on BBC iPlayer. So it was like iPlayer were having their kind of Netflix moment.
yeah,
And this was when they just realized that this is where they could be going. And it would be an excellent rival to Netflix just by having British talent and kind of making something quintessentially British
yeah,
and, doing something like Snooker and that whole Alex Higgins and the whole because it was originally called Dallas with Balls
yeah,
show, which I think summed it up perfectly because it was like this whole kind of dynasty thing.
yeah,
Um, but with Porridge, I'd worked with Kevin on that, and then he was cast as Ronnie Barker's character in what's
yeah.
his name? I can't
Oh,
remember Ronnie's character's the name.
Ronnie's character was called
Fletcher.
yeah,
So Fletcher.
Norman. Yeah,
Yeah. So he was playing, I think it's the grandson of Fletch.
yes, because he'd
Yeah,
been done for cybercrimes.
yeah, that's right. I wasn't in the pilot. A friend of mine, Harmon, was in the pilot, and he plays Aziz in the show.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, when the series came out, and they started auditioning for it, and it was like this is the one, this is the series that had won.
yeah,
So I was really keeping my eye on where it's going and where I could probably fit into
yeah,
whatever wins. And I'm thinking, who's going to cast it? Who
yeah,
do I kind of need to write to or get in with or kind of remind them that, oh, I could maybe be good for this. And then when it was Porridge, I just thought, oh, well, that's brilliant because I know Kevin really well. And hopefully I'm on a list somewhere with that casting director, Tracy Gillam. And so yeah, they brought me in for a small character. It
yeah,
was like a one episode character. So I went to the audition at the BBC, and I did that character, and we did a few takes and things like that. And then Tracy just said to me, And the director, as I was leaving, said, "Sorry, Daniel, do you mind kind of sticking around for a bit? Because I think there's another character we think that you might be better for."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." And I'm thinking, "Oh God, I've really mucked up the audition because I don't think I'm very good." But then they give me this other part, which is a lot bigger, kind of like a recurring, semi-regular character. So they gave me the script sides and everything, and I went into another room at the BBC on my own, and I just kind of tried to learn it or get it off book and kind of come up with some character choices. Um, and then went back in and did the audition with them, and we spent way more time on that character than I did with the original one.
Yeah.
And then after about a week, they kind of like ring your agent and say, "Oh yeah, you've got the part." And I was like, "Amazing, that's brilliant." But then working on that show, I'd never done any kind of live BBC studio-based sitcoms before.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different way of working. So what you do is you shoot about half of it, you shoot as a normal TV series,
Mm.
and they mark those scenes in rehearsals. And then you all travel up to Manchester on the train. Um, and then the next day you start rehearsing and blocking and shooting stuff that you need to get out of the way, basically. So when it comes to the live show, the audience are shown on TV screens. Uh, and I understand it's filmed chronologically as well.
Yeah.
So they will see what comes before and what's going to go
Yeah.
after. And there's a warm-up guy that in between takes is doing stand-up and talking to the audience and things.
Yeah.
And it's a real mixture of like theatre where you have opening night and last night at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's a real buzz doing that. And I was very scared of, or kind of apprehensive of, like seeing the audience whilst I'm on a set.
Mm.
It's really weird because when you're filming a TV show, there are lots of crew hanging around and whatnot, but it's different to like, 200 people just there in front of
Yeah.
you. But you don't really see the audience because there's a crew there as
Yeah.
well. So you can hear them and feel the energy, but you've got to be careful not to let them kind of sway your performance,
Yeah.
like in theatre, because there's not many takes that you can do.
Yeah.
Because the audience are there for, I think, 3 hours, something like that.
Mm.
So you've got to film everything that you haven't filmed within that 3 hour
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. And
Um,
and I think that what I don't think necessarily worked about the sequel, as I'm now calling it, is the fact that when you watch Porridge, it's the lighting. I think that the 2017 Porridge was a little bit too bright. I think whereas the original didn't seem as, it might be the quality of how it looks now. It might have been a lot brighter when it first
yeah,
did, but I do think that this Porridge was like, here's all the colours, let's just dial it up to 12. And I think that that might have distracted, and because of not many of the original cast being either in it or whatnot, I think that that might have made people go, oh, I'm not too sure.
yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's yeah, well, a question about I guess society, I suppose, and
Yeah,
what the prison system where it is now. Um, but as a kind of comedy and seeing what these characters get up to
yeah,
in an institution, I think it is one of the perfect places to set a comedy. It's like where you can't escape.
yeah,
Like we go back to Cheese Pedalo thing, and her guests can't escape because they're in
yeah,
the middle of the water. Same as these guys can't escape. So it has that kind of what kind of Marx Brothers
yeah,
kind of attitude to it, where they're going to go next. Now what's going to happen?
yeah,
How on earth could they get away with this?
yeah,
So I think my problem with Porridge is not the writing or the creative aspect, but it was the audience. I think a lot of people kind of took it, were insulted
yeah,
by the fact that we were have dared to even to do this, and it could have ruined legacies for Barker. But it's like, well, of course it's not. It's just an experiment.
yeah.
you know. And I think I was really gutted that it didn't get a second series because
Yeah,
I thought a lot of those characters had so much more to do.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and I kind of I like defending it because I think that if we did have a second series, I think a lot of the audience would have calmed
yeah,
down,
yeah,
and I think as well, maybe with a second series, it would have had a bit more um, work and writing from Kevin as well, because
yeah,
Kevin did a lot of that writing on that show as well. Um, and people kind of thought it was like, Laframe, Clement writing,
yeah,
which they did do all of that, obviously, it's their show.
yeah,
But Kevin did write a lot of that show.
yeah,
And I thought had a lot more scope for it,
yeah. And I think that with Open All Hours having its sequel to Still Open All Hours, I think changing the name, not calling it just Porridge, like have it like Still in Porridge or something, where you can sort of then,
Yeah,
because I think the title is another issue because then people assume it's a reboot, not a continuation of that family, not a continuation of that sort of universe. I think if you added like a still or a someone could have come up with a better title than what I just did, but having a different word in front of the word porridge might have made people go, all right, because if you watch Still Open All Hours, and if Still Open Hours didn't have David Jason in it, and it had someone else in it playing a different character but in the same universe, people will have probably liked it after a while because it was made itself aware that it wasn't Open All
yeah.
Hours. So do you think that that's another reason why people might have been a little bit off-putted because it's called itself porridge?
I think people are the Porridge fans from the original, and quite rightly so, I suppose, are very um, they want to take care of it and they
Yeah,
don't want it to be messed around with. So they're very yeah, they want to keep it safe.
yeah,
Which I think, again, a second series would have kind of shown that it is a different world, it is a different universe. I
yeah,
mean, it's happening, what was it, like 50 years, I think, from, or at the time, was it 2016? Maybe 40 years
yeah,
since the Barker version. But yeah, maybe a title change would have done it and clinched it. I don't know. I mean, this is the thing with BBC kind of commissioners. You don't know where the curve is. What's the
yeah,
next thing to happen? And I suppose it's just a clear case of, well, we've done that, and
yeah,
now we're on to the next project because of where we are in the
yeah.
a kind of comedy curve.
Yeah. And I think that what's really interesting as a fun wild fact is that when they were writing the original Porridge, at some point I can't remember what series they were in of Porridge UK, but then they were also started writing the American Porridge. So then they got the American version and they used some of the original script, but the original writers they got sort of fed up. That's why it didn't really become a success. And they got really fed up with adapting episodes. They wrote some originals for it, but they got really fed up with it because it wasn't really their show anymore. It was sort of American, and they weren't too best pleased with the outcome. But I do think that what you
Isn't
got,
that though like a kind of like when Americans try and do um, reboots or kind
yeah,
of, it's like I mean, it happened with Red Dwarf, didn't it?
yeah, yeah, it's two versions of it.
There were
Um,
two versions of it, and then they ended up basically at one point they had like Robert Llewellyn,
yeah,
Crichton, in the US version, and then they were like, well, no one can do it as well as Chris Barry, so let's get him to be Rimmer as well.
yeah,
So it's like I think with anything like that, like with the Office remake,
yeah,
you have to make it as authentically to
yeah,
yourselves.
yeah,
And that was my argument with Porridge, is that we did make it a real authentic version. It was an up-to-date version of it. So it's like the US Office. I know that you you don't like it, or you've not
yeah.
watched it.
I,
You've not.
I've seen it reluctantly on the behest of the wonderful Ben Rufus Green, but I despise it with a passion because it really just like gets rid of the realistic aspects in it's a little bit too stupid. So such
Right.
as ripping open the face of a mannequin doing first aid. That would have worked better in the British version because it would have made it more realistic and less stupid.
Still, but that is still in the world of the American office, so
Yeah,
it wouldn't work in the UK office. But because it's inherently in that world of the
yeah,
universe of the US office, it works. They get a pass. But what they did with the US office is by really exploring that world over, I
mm.
don't know how many seasons. I think it was like 7 or 8 seasons,
Nine, I think.
9 seasons.
Yeah,
I would have loved the UK office to have gone down that route.
yeah,
And what the US guys did with that is I think they really explored that world.
yeah,
And I think as a viewer, what a treat to kind of go down that kind of rabbit hole.
yeah, and
Amazing.
yeah, and they did and I've interviewed the writer of the Australian version. What's really funny about the Australian version is it's written by someone from New Zealand. Half the cast are from New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's set in Australia. The main person, Felicity Ward, mainly, I don't know if she does anymore, but for quite a while she lived in Britain, and she was the head honcho of the Australian office, and that was so successful on Amazon Prime that it went to network telly in Australia, and they ended up airing it for free. I don't know if it's going to get a second series or anything, but I think that going back to Porridge slightly, I think the problem with Porridge as well was that at one hand, you had young Hyacinth that started a storyline. The other hand, you had Good Night Sweetheart that continued a storyline. And I think the problem that people had was because Porridge and then Ivy and stuff could just do random things each week, and that was it. It wasn't a proper like it leaves on a cliffhanger. I think that's what people might have been more upset with is the fact that with Good Night Sweetheart, it was set up in a
Mm,
sense of they didn't just do a one-off. And if you've got another series, yes, it makes sense, you can do more. But that was set up to be this continuation, and now they're writing a book version of what would have been
mm,
the next series. But I think that that's another reason why people were upset with Porridge is because the other two at either side of it were setting up a much bigger story. And do you sort of see that when you
I
watch?
do see that, but I think as well what you've got to remember is that generationally that Goodnight Sweetheart um, and Keeping Up Appearances are
Yeah,
much younger shows already than Porridge
yeah,
was. The only one close to that is Are You Being Served? But because of the situation that that comedy is set in, I think it's a mixture of generation and situation
yeah.
with these shows, and I think that is probably what upset people. I think.
Yeah. Now, drifted away from uh, comedy in a sitcom format, but now moving on to something that has comedy in it, but it is ultimately the world's fastest churning drama and keeping its quality at every turn. If you think about it. When you watch the end of one series, there's already a trailer for the next series because they've already filmed that series, and they're on to the third series on from what you've just watched. And then the author of the original books is frantically writing like it's no one's business, 30 odd million other books. And then it's also its other thing with Emma Thompson. But what was it like appearing in the beautifully shot, the beautifully expensive by the wonderful people at Apple, other companies that make TV are available. I don't know if Android make TV shows, but what's it like working on the brilliant not too fast, but very slow horses.
I horses. Yeah, I think that was the longest of me trying to guess what program you were talking about. Um, yeah, that was a good 30 seconds where I was completely flummoxed, thinking, "Oh my God, what's what kind of yeah, slow horses." Um, again, the thing is, with all these shows that I've been lucky to be in,
Hmm.
I've been fans of those
Yeah,
shows. So to be in them, I pride myself on kind of knowing the world of these characters and the universe of them. But now, Slow Horse is interesting because I'd been up for every single season of that show,
Yeah.
different characters, and I never landed them, and it was so irritating. Like there's one season that I went up for two different characters, and I didn't get them. I just didn't get them. Uh, and anyway, this character came up. Oh no, no, I went up for the policeman
Yeah.
in that same episode,
Yeah.
the episode one of what is it, season five, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, the policeman in that character, the character of the policeman, uh, who discovers the dead body, and I didn't get that role, and I was like, damn. But then they said again, actually, we might think this is better for you. Have a look
Yeah.
at this. It's two episodes. Have a go at this. So I did, and what you've got to remember about being on Slow Horses is Will Smith, who writes it, not Will Smith, the
Not that Will Smith, the different Will
Fresh
Smith.
Prince. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the other Will Smith. His writing is again, it's so detailed that you cannot paraphrase any of his lines. It's kind of like you have to learn it like Shakespeare,
Yeah.
word perfect, and bang on the money. Because if you don't, you will tie yourself up in knots.
Yeah.
It ruins the pace of the show. So everything is there on paper,
Yeah.
and you go, right, this is it. But what that means is you cannot kind of improvise around it.
Yeah.
Can't add things in, or you can't like we do with things you should have done. We constantly add little bits and bobs in, and you can't do that with something like that because it's so precise. It took me about a week to learn it
Yeah.
because it's so you've got it's got to be flowing off the tongue, and the good thing about that as well is we never had any kind of like bum takes where people forget lines and anything because it's drilled into you.
Yeah.
But it's so intense because within those scenes a lot of different things are happening, so
Yeah.
you find yourself, a lot of actors will kind of say this is acting within beats of drama.
Yeah.
One thing can lead to something else, and that will make you react to something else. And you've got to do this in the most minute detail because the camera is there. So it was a very intense time working on it.
Yeah.
But we had, and again, this is Apple TV are great with their big budgets and things that
Yeah.
we can spend a lot of time working on scenes for Slow Horses, uh, and Saul, who directs it as well, is again very, uh, yeah, very gracious with his kind of directing, where he will kind of allow the actor to have space
Mm.
to kind of hone that performance. Um, but yeah, I loved working on it. It's because I'm a massive fan of the show.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were filming it, they'd already cut the trailer for that series, which is
Wow.
going to be at the back of the
Yeah.
previous series.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
got to see all of this stuff, which is amazing.
Because
Yeah.
I think it's one of the only shows that does a series a year, and you already know that it's ha already filmed, and in the year that that series come out, they film the next year's series, and apparently the author of the books is still writing the novels still, so
Mm.
that the show will never run out of source material because the author is now writing shows. I don't know if the author is now writing the books with the TV characters in mind, in the versions in mind. I don't know if you can see the shift from when the
Yeah.
show came out. But what's really funny is when you think of Will Smith, who writes Hustle Horses, previously he was in the thick of it, right? And that's what you think of him. But then you find out he did a Radio 4 program all about Bergerac,
Yeah.
whereas it was John Nettles doing a Buddhist tape, and it's Will Smith trying to dissect this like John Nettles, like why is John Nettles being a Buddhist, and what does this mean and he goes through the tape like line for line, and he plays through the tape to the audience, and they're all listening to John Nettles going, and we pray, and we meditate. But Will Smith was on an episode of Rich Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast, and he mentioned that there's a thing called the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon where you can try and work out who you know that might know Kevin Bacon. He can do it with him. He can do it for a Bergerac episode. So Rich
Right.
Herring just says to him a name of the episode of Bergerac, and he can work out who which actor he knows that's been in that episode of Bergerac.
Well, you know, and this is the thing, I like to kind of give gifts in like interviews and
Yeah,
stuff. So this is my gift to you, Tom. You can now play 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon
yeah.
in 2 moves.
Wow. Wow.
So you know
Yeah, yeah.
Dan Fearn worked with Kevin Bacon in an EE advert. There you go.
Yeah. Who would have thought that in Kevin Bacon's career we went, let's do America, no, let's go to
There you
Britain.
go.
What, what are you going to do in Britain? Well, I'm going to do EE adverts. It's like you come to Britain, just,
Fun
wow.
though, that experience working with him,
Yeah,
when I realized like TV technique is something completely
yeah,
different to what I've learned at drama school, like
yeah.
the kind of Stanislavski approach in theatre.
Hmm.
There are kind of elements of that obviously brought in. You, as any actor will tell you that you kind of it's almost like pick and mix. You kind of pick what philosophy you want to kind of
Yeah,
adapt. But with watching Mr. Kevin Bacon in TV,
yeah,
I was like, wow, I've been doing it all completely. wrong.
yeah,
And yeah, it's just amazing the way he just brings everything down.
yeah.
Everything is so natural and at a very low volume. And he's selling like, SIM cards on EE.
Yeah, uh,
Yeah, yeah, and and it's like, well, yeah, this is why I'm still with EE, I think.
yeah. And I don't know who said it, but I remember someone saying that people now come up to him and only know him as the EE man. They don't know his previous work anymore.
Yeah,
It's because he's on them too much. He's on too much, and he's on these high quality, really, really good American high budget things. But he's got on his legacy when they do it on the news. The actor, an advert for EE Man, Kevin
he,
Bacon has
he
died.
was so good at selling mobile phones that
Yeah.
day that I had to go home and watch The Hollow Man to remind myself that he is like one of the most celebrated US actors of all time. But yeah, crazy.
Wow. I mean, to be fair, you know what they say in Britain. He's bringing home the bacon.
Yes,
Um, and so
ding him, ding that man. Oh no, we're not on Washing Up Club now.
no,
Sorry.
no. And on that note, as we before we end up in the slippery slopes, I like to call the washing up bowl the sink of dirtiness.
Yeah.
Which he probably needs to replace his sink at this point. I know it's off track completely, but just to say, I think because he probably will see this, but I think Ben Green might need to change his sink. Or he might need to get Aggie from that cleaning program that she did with what's her and so that she can get a massive cleaner and probably scrub it really hard
Yeah,
because it'll be quite
I
bad.
think there should be a Washing Up Club episode that Ben hosts where he doesn't wash anything up, he just washes that sink
Yeah,
and
yeah,
behind it and does the tiles behind it as well.
yeah,
We're in a lot of trouble now when he watches this episode. That
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But one of the things you've worked on that I think, and I don't, and this is what we'll discover once you've done this. you're you're a millionaire for life because circuits on the conventions are like gold dust because you could be in it for 4 seconds. You could be in it. Your elbow could be in it, right? And if you've done enough acting beforehand, they can dissect what elbow that is and you're in it, and you can just have like a massive picture of your elbow in the background. What's it like being consumed and working in the universe of Doctor Who because you've appeared in
yeah.
a glorious episode of Doctor Who, but what's it like appearing in an episode of Doctor Who, and then what's the fallout, and have you cashed in on the convention circuit yet?
Well, what I do with like with autographs from Doctor Who is that you've got to kind of remain kind of collectible,
Yeah,
haven't you?
yeah,
And so I've kind of stopped. um, giving autographs kind of like willy-nilly
Yeah.
because I want to kind of up my rating of being a bit more collectible. I did a play at the National Theatre a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and I was astonished that at stage door there were a lot of what do you call yourselves? Hoovians.
Hoovians, yeah. Yeah.
Hoovians at the stage door. And I'm like, oh, did you watch the show? Did you like the show? And they're like, no, no, we just know where you are. So these guys were like, they're there. They know where you are. They've done their homework. They're going to get out that autograph. And a lot of the work that goes into, like, with the kind of taking stills from the show
Yeah.
and packaging stuff up and making stuff, I think is amazing. And I love the Doctor Who fans.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but yeah, working on that show. Yeah, yeah, it was again amazing. But this is the I went in for the audition for that, and my massive bugbear with that is why didn't they give me my character a name? Clearly, he's
Yeah.
Mr. Baxter,
Yeah.
but they just went, no, we're definitely going to call your character Crowd One, I think. The name
Yeah.
of the character, and he's got some brilliant lines. I mean, when can you know, like say, one of my lines was, "We didn't come all this way to not see someone hang the doctor," you know, and it's just great just to
Yeah.
say that. And Peter Capaldi's like working off of that line of like, "What? You're gonna hang me?"
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, no, it was great, and it was great being part of what I call a kind of historic Doctor Who
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
It's all about what was it? It was the Highwaymen, wasn't it? It's
Yeah.
set in Tyburn in Oxford Circus at that time where they would, you know, hang highwaymen
Yeah.
and they would bring in massive crowds in that in those days.
Yeah.
And I think with something like that, the enthusiasm of being on a show like
Yeah.
that is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And Ben will tell you that we lost a really dear friend of ours who was a massive Doctor Who fan. And to be part of that and to kind of play into such an institution I'm so lucky to be part of that. You know, I'm lucky to be in this industry, but
Yeah.
to kind of tick off something like that, I
Yeah.
just wow, what a gig. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Well, I think that what's happened now, and I don't know if you've realised this, but now that you've appeared in television, who this does mean that you by rights, and I'm giving out these rights, it seems, but by rights you get access to the audios because obviously Big Finish love giving the spin-off, and they could give your character a spin-off if they so wish, or they could just bring you in as a different character because. What Big Finish love doing is giving out excellent characters to people that have appeared who are either not in TV Who yet or about to appear in TV Who, and it gives them a lot of work. So, and I know that, and this you probably might not get this, but Ruth Madeley, right, the fantastic actor Ruth Madeley, no relation to Richard Madeley,
yeah,
I don't know, I've never asked, but she in Big Finish plays a character called Hebe Harris, who's a companion to Colin Baker, right?
yeah,
Then Ruth made him get some role in TV Who, and then it really annoys me because then she's not Hebe Harris in TV Who.
right.
She's a scientist in unit, so she's still a main character. It's just now she can't ever be in the show as Hebe Harris unless there was some sort of multiverse incident, and it annoys me. And but I think that it proves the point is that you can now be in Audio Who and because I do think you would suit Audio Who as well as
The good thing about my character in that, and this
yeah,
is the little thing, I don't know if people have kind of missed this, but it was definitely for effect.
yeah,
Ed Basilgate is the director who directed the show. He used to be in a band in the 80s. Anyway, so I digress there. But
yeah,
anyway, um, my character gets killed by the Lion Man
yeah,
and then brought back to life when the baddies are destroyed.
Mm,
So technically, my character is going to live for centuries.
yeah. So, Nicholas Briggs, if you are watching, or anyone that wants to
If
pitch,
Crowd won a spin-off,
yeah, if anyone wants to pitch any ideas for Big Finish, if you are obviously if you're already in Big Finish, so you can get directly there a lot quicker. Well, we've got a character in the story. It's like
yeah,
Maisie Williams, where she flew off in the diner, which was a TARDIS. So she died, came back, changed her name from whatever it was to me, and then obviously people do the gag where, what, me? No, 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 the character me. What, me? No, 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 the character me. What, you? No, Maisie Williams. And then you 4 hours later trying to shut the person up because they think it's hilarious.
I agree. I think my character should have some exploration,
Yeah,
definitely. The most
yeah,
maxiest kind of crowd member.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it was good. The good thing about that as well
yeah.
is that was it Rufus Hound
Oh yeah,
hit the nail on the head when we were traveling together in the car to the set,
yeah,
uh, and he said, "I don't know about you, but I feel like in my head I'm high-fiving everyone that I see." I just thought well, that is exactly spot on
yeah,
way of saying because we did a lot of long days in that in
yeah,
the mud and the drizzle and the just recreating 17th century London. It's just you're in the mud. You're in it's not a great experience, but because you're doing Doctor Who,
yeah,
it's you kind of
yeah,
forget that.
yeah.
You There's such a buzzing. You end up being so buzzed about it. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And you've also got to see yourself lucky that you've not had to go at like 2 o'clock in the morning to spend 7 hours in makeup getting prosthetics put on you to be some
Yeah, exactly. That would
horrendously looking creature that is the most brilliant thing ever. Where you watch him there do and all these binds in, you're like, you would probably fall asleep. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
painful or
you
not, but
would, you would. The guy who played the lion guy in that,
yeah,
who's like half man, half lion. I can't remember his name. Such an amazing actor. But we worked together on Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell,
yeah.
and he came up to me and went, "Oh, Dan, we worked on Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell in full lion makeup." I didn't know who this guy was. I was like, "Oh yeah, we did, yeah, yeah." And I'm
Yeah,
thinking, who is this guy? And
yeah,
I didn't know who he was until the very end of the shoot, which
yeah,
was like a week later when I saw him in the hotel foyer. And I was like, "Oh, that's who you are." You know?
yeah. So now, let's think of it. Now, moving back in time, I was trying to think of the correct one here. Now traveling back in time to a world where ITV were spending money on coppers and definitely making sure it wasn't a soap opera. Um, what was it like appearing in what was known in early pre-Doctors world of this a good place to start people's career. Doctors did that as well, but I think this predecesses it in a slight sense of once Doctors reached the milestone it got to, everyone then knew it as that's a show that you go on if you want to try to hone your craft. What was it like working on the Nino show? The
The
Bill.
bit I got that for you. Yeah, again, I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
I did that quite quick, about 15 seconds, that one.
yeah,
The Bill, I've done 4 episodes of The Bill.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, that was one of my first acting jobs. Um, they're like mini films, aren't they? And
mm,
I really missed The Bill. I think they should bring it back. There was talk about of bringing it back, I think.
yeah,
Everyone was saying Law and Order was like The Bill for a while, but yeah, no, the Bill is great because as actors, there's the adage of you can't call yourself an actor unless you've been in the Bill,
yeah, yeah,
you know, and there's so many people that have gone through those Sunhill doors
yeah.
and either been in prison or or they've been wronged. I just love, yeah, I just love being on it. There's something really uh strict about it.
Yeah.
because you've got to get those scenes done and you've got to get those locations done.
Yeah.
I remember one of my very first episodes. There was a scene where it was a drugs deal gone wrong. So I then run from the police.
Mm.
I ran, and we were filming in a car park in Sainsbury's. And the good thing about the bill at the time was they kind of had carte blanche to turn up anywhere and film whenever they wanted without a moment's notice. I don't know if that was true or not, but it
Yeah.
certainly felt true on this instance because in this scene in Sainsbury's, the drug dealer's going on, so I run off and the police chase me. Now, this woman walks in front of me with a trolley, and I thought, oh, she's like one of the extras that has been told to kind of, to up the drama, move out. So I got the trolley, I yanked it out of the way. She screams, and I'm running off thinking, she's really good. She's a pro. Then someone's going, carts, carts, carts. And she's like crying. And all of her shopping is spilled all over the floor. I'm thinking, oh God, this isn't, her. This is a member of the public. So I went up to her and I said, are you okay? I thought you were one of our guys. And she went, no, you really frightened me. I thought, oh God. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I genuinely thought you were. So I was like helping her put her shopping
Yeah.
back in the trolley and everything. And then she apologized, and she was okay. She saw the funny
Yeah.
side of it. Went to her car, and then someone went, "Sorry, is that your car?" And she went, "Yes, I'm just done all my shopping, and now." And they went, "You can't move your car. It's in shot. It's been in shot for the past, hour and a half. So can you leave your car there?" And so there she had to kind of wait with her car, shopping for him.
Excellent.
But she got a load of autographs from all the people that were on the bill and
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
some photos and things. So
Wow.
yeah, it was okay. And they let her go pretty
Yeah.
quickly. But
What
we
a story to say when you get home. What happened to you today? Oh, I went out shopping, then I got roped into the bill by accident. What? You got roped into the bill? Yeah. And then you watch, you going, that's my car. Oh, that's the person that almost kidnapped my shopping.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I just think that that's incredible. But when you when you start in the industry, not the very big one, when you like in it enough, or you end up knowing a lot of people, is at the time of the Bills being alive and doctors being around, was there like was it like a sort of a checklist moment where when you talk to other actors, because I know they do this for Midsummer, where they talk to other people, say, "Have you done a Midsummer? Oh, I've done a Midsummer. Have you done it?" And they do that for doctors. And I remember someone saying that they never got to do a doctor's. They were the only actor out their friends to never do a doctor's, and everyone else had done a doctor's. But do you think
Yeah,
that the bill was on that sort of list of like
absolutely.
when you say have you done that, and then you have to have done that to officially say you're an actor or an actor?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. It did go down that. I mean, yeah, and also a friend of mine, Adam, who's a great actor.
Mm.
When we left drama school, I got a part in the bill, and he
Yeah.
got a part in Casualty.
Wow.
And then he got a part in London's Burning. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember London's Burning.
Yeah.
And he was desperate to get into the bill just so he could say he could tick off all of his emergency
Yeah.
service. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where if you watch The Bill, then you watch London Burning, then you watch Casualty, you can now say, I'm officially, I'm trained in emergency services.
I'm on 999. Yeah,
I
yeah.
can easily do a triple heart bypass because I've watched it on Holby City. I can easily do that now. I can easily get rid of that drug dealer. Would you actually do it? No. Now,
I
on
think
that,
just quickly, a
yeah, go
friend of
on.
mine as well.
Yeah,
He played a policeman on London Burning,
yeah.
and then a fireman in the bill.
Wow.
So,
Who would have thought?
you're talking about universes, and
Yeah, yeah.
I always find that quite
Yeah.
funny.
Now, as we come towards the end of it, one of the things you've done, and in the last few years, I'm sort of accidentally. It's as we've said previously with the several with the degrees of Kevin Bacon. This is the Doctor's universe connecting into my real life. So years ago, I watched Doctors, and I watched it. I sat down. Oh, Doctor Who's on, and it was Doctors. I sort of misread the word Doctor, the first Doctor Who, and it wasn't. The theme tune of Doctors came on. Um, and then um I met the woman who wrote on Doctors. She was at one point a university lecturer for me. Now, her work was on recent Doctors, so I'd seen the episodes she'd written on, and we had to analyze one of her episodes because I didn't know her name beforehand. I thought, I didn't know you'd written that, and I'd seen that episode. I knew the episode like word for like scene shot for shot because
Mm.
I'd seen it, and then we had whole conversations about Doctors. And on the day Doctors ended, I was in her lesson and I was going home to watch Doctors. She was on
Right.
a WhatsApp chat with all the Doctors writers talking about how sad it is. We had a whole conversation about Doctors. Then Graham, who was in the character of I think it's Graham, who was in the final storyline of Doctors. He was the nemesis. I interviewed him, Alex Avery. And so
Yeah.
my Doctor's world is sort of oh well, obviously I'm never in Doctors, which is a bit annoying. And I obviously started watching Doctors. Kia Pegg was in the Dumping Ground Tracy Beaker, and then she went on to that. So
Mhm.
it is the Doctor is one of those juggernauts, and to roll back to the question at hand, but when you did Doctors, could you feel how important being in Doctors was because Doctors is one of those things where it's not just a stepping stone into the industry, but it's important for that area of that area of that area of Britain. It's important for the Midlands. It's important for industry. Did you notice being around that how important Doctors was?
Absolutely. Because what you've got to remember about doctors and anything that is kind of an institutionalized program, be it, the Bill or EastEnders,
Mm,
Casualty, with doctors, because it's the kind of first port of call for um, obviously actors, directors as
yeah,
well, writers, or anyone that is dipping their toe into the industry for the first time with like TV and filmmaking. So, for example, I remember talking to one of the drivers on that show,
yeah,
and he was, I suppose, like a third AD or something. Um, so he's got lots of these little jobs to do, include driving cast around.
yeah.
Uh, and then because he was so encompassed within the world of doctors,
Mm,
he was writing an episode as well.
wow.
And the production team had allowed him and commissioned him to do
Yeah,
that. Said, yeah, yeah, let's see what you've got. And and yeah, he would have. I don't know if he was successful in the end. I would have thought he was because he was a trusted member of the team. So of course they would trust him to make to write a whole episode.
yeah,
So yeah, there's a lot of that going on, and then also assistant directors directing on a split unit as well. So what will happen is if they need to do another scene quickly in I don't know, that they've kind of missed off their list, they will get the assistant to completely direct that scene. So everyone is kind of learning and grateful to learn and be
yeah,
on. I mean, the regulars on that show that are actors, that are acting, they can learn lines incredibly quickly.
yeah,
And it's such a skill to have that short-term memory. I would learn it the day before in the hotel, but then other actors that were on it, like they're in it all the time, they would go, "Oh, what scene are we doing next?" And I say, "Oh, we're doing like scene 13." And they go, "Okay, right, I've learned that now, done." And then they go and do it word perfect.
yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. But the other thing as well was we would shoot something like 16 pages a day,
Wow.
which is half of a episode.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
do think Doctors it was odd in a sense of because it was at that time slot, you wouldn't have thought that the reach of it would have gained that much. And I think that because of the way it's written and the way it's produced, it doesn't feel. So when you watch EastEnders and then you watch Slow Horses, right, you can tell that EastEnders is lower budget, and you can tell that EastEnders is a soap because of the way it's shot. And then that's not a negative thing on EastEnders. It's just represented thing. But when you look at Doctors, for me, because I'm not the world's biggest soap fan, yes, I like The Archers, Take the High Road, River City, Fair City, and other niche soaps in general, and not really the heavy hitters. I didn't feel that Doctors was a soap because I went, I went, I went in to watch Doctors because I wanted to watch an episode of Doctors.
Have you had a
And then
power
I accidentally then watched 400 episodes by accident. I got trapped in the loop. So, but you can see the power of my light's gone off, and you can see the power.
I just said, have you had a power cut?
No, 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 no.
Yeah,
And you,
I think with Doctors, it was similar to the Bill
mm,
because everything was a kind of standalone episode.
yeah,
So it's not a continuation like, EastEnders with the Archers or anything
yeah,
like that. It was a bona fide series, yeah.
yeah,
Well, but accidentally it became a very long running series.
yeah. And so, as my light turns off, and
Yeah,
as that signals, that says something definitely.
yeah.
And as we draw a close to this interview, without giving away your home address, where can people track you down online?
Um, so yeah, Instagram. I'm at FerninatorX. Um, and Twitter. I'm not really on Twitter anymore, but my profile's still there. At Arman Fern. And yeah, I'm on Facebook, but I don't really. Oh no, TikTok. I've got a TikTok account. Yeah, so I've been doing little bits of content.
Hmm,
Um, and I don't know. I'm ashamed to say I don't know my TikTok handle. It's something ridiculous like Dan Fern 3702 or something like that. But if you put my name in TikTok, it's bound to come up.
yeah.
But yeah, Insta is my go-to.
And so, there we have it. Thank you guys for watching. And remember, no, I've forgotten.